right. Got both platforms firing up. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the PT on Ice Daily Show. I am Dr. Jeff Moore, currently serving as the CEO of ICE and lead faculty for our cervical spine and lumbar spine courses. Great to have you here with us. Got you live over here on Instagram. Got you live over here on Facebook. Good to see everybody this morning. Hope all is well in your world. So it's Thursday, which means it's Leadership Thursday. It also means it's Gut Check Thursday, right? Perhaps even more than Leadership Thursday. From an importance perspective, we've got a good one on tap. So we've cooked up an AMRAP, 12 minutes. That means as many rounds as possible as you can get through in this workout for 12 minutes. So everyone's going to work for the same amount of time. The fitter the athlete, the more they're going to get done. And it's going to be an ascending setup here. So we're going to start with 3 kettlebell swings. And that's going to be standard 53-35 for the gents and the ladies. And then 3 air squats. And then round 2 is going to be 6 kettlebell swings, 6 air squats. Then 9 kettlebell swings, 9 air squats. You get the idea. You're going to hammer this for 12 minutes. All right, so you can imagine some of the challenges is going to be the grippiness in the shoulder work with that kettlebell. The air squats is probably going to be your quote-unquote rest, so try and use it as that, and that's going to be the setup for today. Hope everybody enjoys that. Remember, tag hashtag Gut Check Thursday, hashtag Ice Train at Ice Physio. Let us know you're out there hammering it. We'll share those all over our social media platforms. As far as courses coming up, got a handful of them this weekend. Fitness Athlete with Zach Long is going to be out in New Jersey, Cherry Hills, I believe. And then over in Bear, Delaware, we've got Older Adult. Can't wait to be in Delaware. David, you already knocked it out, man. Good job. Over in Delaware, Dustin Jones is going to be there knocking out older adult management. And then total spine thrust manipulation with Justin Dunaway is going to be in North Carolina. So all those live courses coming up. Online-wise, we have our Fitness Athlete Essential Foundations starts November 9th. So that one's creeping up right after the weekend. So jump into some of that good stuff. Have a strong finish to the rest of the year. All right. Expertise is demonstrated by what you leave out. It's an interesting dilemma, and it almost feels a little bit contrarian because we live in a society where more is generally considered better, right? Where restraint rarely gets the spotlight, where doing less is not applauded very often. So it makes this idea of doing less being appealing almost a tough sell. But let me just give you a few examples of which there are innumerable, where I think this needs to be highlighted, this idea of expertise really being demonstrated by what you don't do, more so than what you do. So in clinic, probably the most glaring example of this is in the physical exam, right? When you contrast the expert to the novice. So if you watch an expert or a master clinician perform a physical exam, what you can't help but notice is that it's relatively brief, right? Meaning it does not include a ton of items. And the reason for that is it's very targeted, right? They are doing as much as necessary, but they're doing as little as possible. Now, the reason it's targeted is because they have committed and they have trusted that commitment, right? That's why they are able to have this really abbreviated physical exam, because they have asked the right key questions of which they have enough confidence behind that they are able to confidently say, at least in this moment, doesn't mean they can't revisit it, but they're able to say, at least for right now, I am going to skip this because it simply does not have enough evidence behind it that this could be on board, that testing for it, at least today, is not priority. So it's that confidence to be able to say, I'm pretty sure it's one of these couple of patterns. Here's the data that I would need to gain to challenge each of these and decide which one should become my working hypothesis. Every bit as importantly, here's data that I don't need to drive that decision. And it's that next part that the expert really has that allows folks to say, gosh, she hardly did anything, but she got to the right conclusion so rapidly, so efficiently, right? Because they're trusting the information they have, they are able to do less. Now, what makes this really important is that because they're able to do less, they can do it better. Because they don't have a million things to do in their physical exam, The things they do choose to do, that they do believe are important, they can do them slowly, methodically, and perfectly. So they're doing less better because of the trust they have in their clinical pattern recognition in the data they've already gained. Now, if you contrast that to the novice does the exact opposite, right? They do all the things, right? Because they really don't know what they can leave out. They don't have that fine-tuned pattern recognition to be able to say, ooh, it's not this, or we would have seen this. So I don't need to test for that. Because they don't have that recognition, they don't know what to leave out. The problem with that is they now do all the things, which means they gather a ton of unnecessary information. And unnecessary information is the greatest enemy of clinical clarity, right? When you're looking at decision making, having a massive abundance of unneeded information drives a lot of clinical confusion, not only for the clinician, but for the patient. It's very hard for the patient to see what matters, or to see things that stick out, or to be able to draw contrasts, to understand, right, especially when they don't have the background the clinician has, what's going on and why it's meaningful when there's so much information to sift through. So in all cases, excessive information is the enemy. The ability to not gain excessive information comes from the confidence that parallels expertise in leaving things out. There's so many examples of this, but maybe the most prominent one in physio is the neurological exam. So a lot of clinicians do the neurological exam every single time, which is very bizarre, right? Because they wind up doing a neurological exam, say on a back pain patient who has no symptoms even beyond the gluteal fold, has no complaints of numbness, tingling, or weakness, yet they're rocking a neuro exam. And what's interesting is if you stop them in the middle of that and say, what are you up to? They will often say, I'm doing a neurological exam. At which point you will say, well, I know what you're doing, but what do you expect to find here? And they will say, well, not much, because the patient doesn't really have any neurological signs or symptoms, which allows for an important moment of pause for the clinician to begin realizing, like, God, why am I doing this? Like, I really don't think this is on board, yet I find myself testing it because I don't have the confidence to trust that decision-making process. I almost don't believe my own subjective. I almost think, maybe I missed something or a clinical pattern. I think I might have missed something, or I better do it just in case. That is what drives the massive amount of information that we gain in our exams that drives so much confusion for clinician and patient alike. It's the willingness to say, I'm not going to do a neurological exam. There are no symptoms distal of the gluteal fold. There's no numbness, tingling, weakness. I've got nothing on board here that indicates somebody has neurological impairment. For that reason, I'm going to leave that out. Now that clinician just saved 5 minutes. From a well done neuro exam, a really good dermatome-myotome reflex, especially if you're rocking sharp dull, is going to take you a good 5 minutes. 5 minutes! I don't know about you all, that is a massive amount of time in my world. And you now got that back because you made that decision to trust your pattern recognition and the data you've already gained to not do excessive testing. That's one example, right? Looking at the physical exam. Another really obvious one, and I know this because I find myself on the novice side of this all the time, is the cues that movement experts in any space, be it a CrossFit coach, be it a physical therapist coaching an Olympic movement, coaches in any cases, watch them cue, right? You know right away the level of expertise, of virtuosity, of coaching the individuals demonstrating immediately by two things. Number one, the amount of cues. Number two, the amount of words per cue. We recently had Nick Winkelman on Virtual Ice, and he spoke a lot to this topic, right? But the novice coach, right? The expert coach, let's start there. The expert coach is often going to give one cue, right? Thinking about coaching the squat, right? Drive the knees out. Drive the knees out, right? Spread the floor apart. They're going to give you one cue, often external. The reason they're able to only give you one cue is they know the most important cue. That's the difference, right? From the expert coach and the novice coach. Is the expert coach watches that individual trying to perform a functional movement, sees a myriad of things that could be improved, but is able to say, I know that pattern. The one thing they could change that would change the most other things is this. And they give one cue right, to make a change in what they believe to be kind of that linchpin characteristic that's going to create the most amount of downstream positive sequela. The novice tells you everything they know about the squat during the squat, right? Like they tell you, okay, you're driving your knees a little bit. You got to keep your chest up though, right? Okay, can you kind of push the floor like 1 foot away from the other? They are literally telling you everything they know about the squat while you are struggling with the squat. Just like above in the physical exam, that drives a tremendous amount of confusion for the receiver of the information, right? Because again, they don't have all this background, right? They don't have any ability to determine most relevant. So now in real time, they're being forced to, and the skill set just isn't there, right? Now, not only will the expert give less cues, they will give less words per cue for the exact same reason. It minimizes confusion, right? Short, clear cues on the most salient variable are going to drive the most amount of positive change. You can tell the expert from the novice very, very quickly when someone's trying to coach somebody else to have improved motion, more effective motion. One more. Think about the space that you leave in conversations. Just this ongoing conversation about how experts tend to show restraint. Experts tend to do less better, less things, less words, always less, right? Think about this concept when it comes to space in conversations. So experts let patients, just gonna hit remind me on this phone call rocking in, that should restore. So experts in conversations leave a lot of space. So think about how they allow patients to come to their own conclusions, right? That's the art. Like if we're really getting into behavior change, if we're really getting into embracing people's ability to make their own synapses that really drives their ability to behave different and thus thrive more. The art is really crafting or creating fertile ground and then also creating space to allow it to be utilized. Think about watching the expert and the novice discuss MRI findings in asymptomatic patients, right? They don't say, see, look, Marianne, you don't have to have symptoms either because all those folks don't have symptoms and you have a very similar image. So like you can imagine that you could be one of those people. You don't need to barrage your patient with all that information. What you need to do is create some curiosity around the fact that it is interesting that a lot of people who don't have symptoms do seem to have findings on their imaging that this individual in front of you thinks is relevant for symptom creation, or at least has a strong correlation to it. So those conversations go more along the lines of, yeah, we have definitely found out a lot in the past few years that plenty of people who have MR findings that have a lot of quote unquote abnormalities don't deal with a lot of back pain. And then leave a little bit of space. Maybe you even move on. Right? And you allow that person to wonder, well, that's weird because I really thought that my MRI with those findings is why I have back pain. Maybe I should ask a follow-up question. Maybe there's other things to it, but maybe they should drive, right? Maybe we should create some curiosity and they should begin to wonder. They should bring their own personal framework or references or background or beliefs and expectations into that piece of information or that data point and create their own question versus us always telling them everything we know, right? It's that willingness to create that space. Think about the last one. Think about the person with the quote unquote hamstring strain. Right? They're absolutely convinced they've got a hamstring strain. You've got a hypothesis that maybe we've got some low back related leg pain, right? Maybe we have some neural dynamics or some neural sensitivity that might have some mechanical intolerance to it causing some of that pain on the posterior leg. So in the slump test, when you bring on symptoms, right? And you then tell that patient, just go ahead and look up for me, right? And they look up like that. And you say, non-biased, any change there? And they say, yeah, all my leg pain went away when I looked up. Space. Give it some space. I know how bad you want to say, well, yeah, that's because it's not your hamstring. See, the whole neurological system is all intertwined. So when you release some tension from the top, I know how bad we want to say all the things. But what's better is to leave space and to let 8 or 10 seconds go by to where they say, hey, Dr. Moore, that's sort of strange to me. that all I did was move my head there and all the pain in my leg changed so significantly. Oh yeah, can I add some color to that? Like can I give you some information on why that might be, right? As they're coming to you for the information. What we see over and over in all these different areas, whether it's in the way that we manage our physical exam, whether it's in the way that we cue movement, whether it's in the way that we leave conversations for patients to begin to bring their own self, their own ideas, their own, whether they're positive or negative, right? Their expectations, their beliefs, their current understanding into the environment with a new data point in all of these different cases. What you find the master clinician does, the master communicator does, is less. Either they're leaving things out of the physical exam because they trust the data they have. They don't need every data point available. They need the right data points that actually guide decision making. They leave cues out because even though all of them are valuable, it's right cue for right patient, right time. When they use it, they use less words. The reason they can do it is they know the one that matters. And in conversation, they create curiosity, but then also space, because ultimately they know it's not about them. It's about the patient understanding it in their way, with their current understanding, beliefs, expectations. Experts do less, but they do it better. In every one of these cases, they do it less, but they do it better. Think about that not only in your clinical practice, but think about this in your life. Right? Let this spin around a little bit. Let me know what kind of conclusions you come to. Can't wait to further the conversation. Everybody, PT on Ice Daily Show, as always, thrilled to have you here. PTOnice.com is where everything lives. All the courses, everything we have online and live. Please hit us up. Let us know how we can serve you. Enjoy the rest of the day. Hopefully the election comes to a conclusion. We can all move forward. Charge, lead from the front. As always, only spot to be. Cheers, everybody. Have an awesome Thursday.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.